Good morning and welcome you all to this webinar about DynamicShare. So it has been a bit silent about the DynamicShare for quite some time, and that has mainly been due to the supply chain issue that we have experienced, as well as probably everybody else in our industry. So we have the solution to a problem with video distribution. DynamicShare is back on the shelf, and they are shipping from mid-October. And when we're talking about it, DynamicShare today, I'll explain to you how you can use it with our products, how you can use it with third-party products, and how it's placed and what it does. For some of you, you have already used DynamicShare. It's the same product as we have been using for the last couple of years, though we have a new firmware upgrades on it and a couple of other things. So thank you for taking time off to spend it with me for the next hour. Let's go ahead and get started. So our intention has always been to create the perfect meeting room. It doesn't matter what you're looking for and how the design that you want to have. We still want to give you the possibility of having all your AV equipment exactly in the design that you need and you want to have, and at the moment you don't need AV anymore, it disappears. So let's just have a quick look at this video here. So this is clear, this is not a traditional meeting room. I think there's very few meeting rooms that look like this, but the AV equipment that we have here is typical. In this case, we have a display, we have the share built in, we have retractable cables, and we have microphones, we have a push to talk and so on. But again, it's only visible when you need it, and then it disappears. There are other types, different designs. Again, we can still accomplish to give you a full AV professional seamless meeting experience by using the HOLM products, in this case also integrating the DynamicShare. So let's have a talk about what is and what does DynamicShare do. A meeting room, it's about being inspired. It's about flexibility, it's about creativity. We want you to be able to customize it so it exactly fits your business and how you're doing it, your business and your meetings. And at the same time, we want it to be extremely easy to use. So when we talk about easy to use, that means it doesn't matter if you connect a Mac or a PC, whatever you're connecting, it should be seamless. You shouldn't have the need for software or special assistance for what we will call a standard meeting. Of course, in some places you want somebody to control your meeting, everything is pre-programmed, and somebody is running the meeting remotely. But in the case that you want to run it yourself locally with the buttons, that's a possibility. But we give you the possibility as well to eliminate or to bypass all the interfaces on the HOLM products, so it can be controlled remotely. So again, giving you all the possibility we think you will be needing. If we don't have it, we'll be happy to make it for you. Here we have a small video showing you what is the DynamicShare, and also we'll talk a bit about the DynamicLoop. Again, we wanted to make it as easy as possible. We want the table to be able to stand alone. When the table can stand alone, the only thing you have to do is to add power to the table, and it will do everything you need. And we know by heart that connecting everything by cable makes the connectivity more stable, more secure. In DynamicShare, we are connecting the monitors in daisy chain with using HDMI cable. On each of the monitors, we have a motorized cable or fixed HDMI connectivity where we will connect our local source, and then we have a couple of buttons, or we say we have 3 buttons. We have a view button where we can toggle between different inputs. We have a share button that we can share what is on our screen to the rest, and one of the participants or one of the screens can have a priority button, so he blocks out the rest, meaning that they cannot control the meeting or anything. We also have a standalone DynamicShare box if you want to take out the audio from the presentation. You do that, or if you want to send the signal to a projector, a larger screen, maybe it's outside of the room, say an operational theater, you would have people paying attention in a different room, and therefore you can have this external box. The main difference between DynamicShare and DynamicLoop is that the DynamicLoop, you're just changing the signal, and you only have one source from one location that you share. With the DynamicShare, you will have it on each location. So DynamicShare will allow you to share. You have to replicate the signal up to 20 monitors. If you have an external box, that will also count as a monitor. So 20 share points altogether as a maximum. If you're looking at the loop, then you can go up to 190, or you can even go the double. I will explain that a bit later. So why to use DynamicShare, and what is DynamicShare? What we call it is the perfect handshake. Let me get into a bit why we see this as the perfect handshake. It is all designed by us. Everything that is designed together has a larger possibility of working seamless. We know when we are adding third party, there's always something that is not exactly perfect. There's always something that has to be adjusted, some settings that have to be done, and some frequencies and other things, resolutions that have to be adapted. In this case, everything is designed together and for the same purpose, and that's why the DynamicShare talks to the rest of the HOLM products very easily in form of controls on the AH-LAT or the AH-Link that we have on our mobile phones. The perfect handshake is to share video sources and to give you a nice and easy meeting flow without interruption, so we can keep concentration without stopping because something doesn't play and so on. It's a very safe environment to be in when you use the DynamicShare. Everything is on cable, so nothing wireless on the content side. And that we can share from each location. It's also a way of treating everybody the same way. So everybody is equally important around the table, no matter the gender or your position at the table. And for security is something that we have experienced as well. There is people that are saying, how can we, if somebody taps onto the cables, but tapping into cables is much more difficult than it is into a wireless presentation. Also, installation-wise, it's extremely simple, as we're just daisy chaining between one monitor to another one using HDMI cables. Of course, we have to use the correct HDMI cable and the right quality, and we have to control the length of the cables that we're using. There's no need to have exceeded coils of cable under a table. That does not help the reliability of any types of installation. At the same time, time-wise, and if we do use the ERT from HOLM for the controls, you can separate the whole HOLM setup or the HOLM products from the rest, which will give you a very simple and very straightforward installation. And if something doesn't go as you have planned, it's very simple to isolate it from the rest and check if the HOLM products connectivity part is done correctly, which will give you a peace of mind. You know, you have to look somewhere else, maybe in the programming and somewhere, and at the same time we can go in and support you remotely from our office. So there's quite a lot of advantages in this solution. So the DynamicShare is a box that takes up a bit of space. In our vertical products, as the DX2, the DB2, and our Alberal Smart products, the box is integrated into the monitor itself, and it goes on the main power supply for the monitor. In some of the other products that we have, like in the horizontal product, like the Dynamic 3, the Dynamic 1, also our manual products like the AH1, the AH2, the box itself is not integrated into the product. Then we use a standalone box underneath the table that I'll be showing you in a bit. And then we use the bottom interface, it's still integrated into the monitor surface. So you have a clean installation, you have the technology underneath the table in this case. But let's just have a quick look at how the box looks in real life. The box itself that we would be the HOLM that we call the standalone box looks like this. And the box is the same card or PCB board as we have built in, but when it doesn't fit into the monitor itself, you will have this box and it will be mounted, for example, under the table away. But we will have the same kind of inputs. If we take a look at it, we will have here the video output, and we will have the audio, digital audio output as well. We will have two HDMI connectors here for the input, and we will have two connectors here for the loop in and loop out, and one more source input. So 3 source input, the loop in and out, and then we have the video, we have the EarthNet connectivity. So one of the things that is important is that when we're talking about DynamicShare is that the looping have to be done using the in and out. We cannot take the out input and go to a loop out and put it into a screen. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't, but then you don't have the whole setup closed. It has to be a closed circuit. So that's not an option. You have to use the HDMI output that you see here. So that's the box. So when you're having the box for external use in smaller products, as I said, we can have the interface on the display. If you use third-party displays, we have another box available that will do the same, and it looks like this. Again, a box that you can mount on the table, and it has share, it has view, and it shows the presentation, and it also comes with priority. So again, you have different possibilities with our screens or with other screens. Going back to the presentation, as I said, when they are embedded, we're using the same power supply for this unit for the share as the one that runs the monitor. When they are not embedded, then there is an external power supply for the share board by itself. So who's using DynamicShare and why are they using it? Mercedes Formula 1 are using the HOLM DynamicShare in their Monday post-race briefing. And what is special about HOLM Share and what this meeting is doing is all the engineers are meeting up from the different division for that could be aerodynamic, that could be the gearbox, that could be the tires, that could be whatever, all the parts that we have in Formula 1. And for some of them, because of the short time frame they have between races, this meeting is very important. It's very important that each team in the engineering teams can show their details and their information. So when somebody for aerodynamic, for example, is doing their presentation, the other ones that are not or don't have to pay attention to that at this moment, they can actually prepare their presentation despite somebody else is presenting. And when it's their turn, they can just by clicking share show their presentation. That means you can actually leave a presentation, prepare your own presentation, and when it's your turn, you can activate it. So what are they looking for in Formula 1? For you guys who know Formula 1, yeah, a tenth of a second is extremely important. So they're looking for a tenth of a second here and there if it's findable. But it's a matter of details. And again, the closer you bring the sources to the users, the easier communication is and the better communication becomes, because it's all in the details. And when you have a screen right in front of you, just by moving your head forward a couple of centimeters, that gives you focus and that gives you zoom. When you're looking at the last display at the end of the room, you actually have to get up and walk a couple of meters to do the same. So when we have the DynamicShare integrated into our product, of course, and we bring our device, we have to be able to connect our device. And how we do that in two ways. One of the ways is with a motorized cable, another one is with a fixed connector. So let's have a look at DynamicShare. So DynamicShare, the idea is that each monitor has their own connectivity. That means that each of the monitors, up to 20 units, can connect their own device, select their the material that you want to share, and then they press share, and everybody around the table will get it. Here it's explained a bit about with donuts. We have number one has a pink donut, number two has a green donut, and so forward. And on this slide you can see that number one is sharing, so everybody around the table sees the pink donut. That's input number one. If it was a monitor number 5 that would be doing that, then everybody will be showing and seeing the brown donut. He could also be working on his brown donut, doing the finishing of it before presenting it, and number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 will still be seeing the pink donut. So when it's embedded on the monitor, underneath, what you'll be seeing is that the upper part is for the monitor itself, it's for the AHnet as clearly indicated, and then the part below, there you'll find the two internal inputs or external inputs, HDMI 1 and HDMI 2. Remember, when we talked about the box, we also have HDMI 3. This time HDMI 3 is inside of the box. That's the motorized cable coming up, or the connectors at the top. If you need to have both HDMI 1 and 2 in the embedded version, you have to point out that you need number 2 normally, otherwise it will just be one HDMI connection. Then we have Ethernet connection for setting up the master unit, which I'll get back to, and then we have some ERT eyes for 2 inputs as well. We have, of course, loop in and loop out. So coming back to the different possibility on having connectivity to the DynamicShare on your monitor itself. The top one is for the vertical units, where we have a HDMI cable coming vertically up. The middle one is where it's for the horizontal versions, where there's a small door opening up and the motorized cable is coming out. And to say the more economical version would be the HDMI connector fixed into the surface, then you have to bring your cable yourself. So that was the connectivity. And then for the control, as I said, we have buttons. We can have one with 3 buttons, the one with priority, or delegate that only has 2 buttons. Remember, this is the local control of the DynamicShare. You can also have it remotely done. So if we look at the delegate, we will have the button called view. And the view, if you're pressing that one, you'll toggle between the 4 lights, which is indicating the 4 inputs that can be available. If there's no signal on the input, you'll jump that automatically, so you're not wasting any time or getting a black screen. When you don't have chosen the signal you want, you press the share button and everybody will get it. So if you have a chairman who wants to have control, then you'll need to have 1 seat with priority. And by pressing the priority, you cannot leave the presentation and you cannot present. And here is explained a bit again with the same up here. The first button above is share, the second one is view, and the light will indicate which source you're viewing, and then you have the priority button as well. So here we are showing a vertical monitor. It's the DB2 that doesn't have a cover plate, but here we are also capable of having DynamicShare embedded both in the display itself, and also the unit is the PCB board is also integrated in the box, so we run on 1 power supply. We have the tower coming up, and we have the HDMI retractable cable, motorized retractable cable coming out. You connect it to your laptop, and then you have view, so you toggle between your sources in the glass just below the display itself, and you have share. If you saw it on the tower that comes up with the cable, you will also find a USB connector if you order it. That can be used for putting in your presentation. If you have client PC allocated to the monitor, and with your touchscreen you can activate and you can run through your presentation, and then you use your DynamicShare to show that. So if you're using third-party screens, for example, and then you will need a control interface. In this case, we have an external button available that like the one I showed you before, that you can mount on your table or in the position where you want it. This box can also be available in different shapes. If you want to do like an auditorium sharing using just one DynamicShare box, that's something I'll get back to a bit later to show you. But this is the box that will connect and give you the interface, and it will connect on a sub-D to the box that we have here. So here as well we will find the sub-D connector. We know that it's a bit a brutal connector, but it works and it's extremely stable to work with. So let's go back to the slides. On all the HOLM product and the HOLM.net, the ERT, we have an open protocol, so it's extremely simple to program our products. And you see a lot of the protocols are the same both for the monitors to go up, for the mics to go up, and so on. So it's pretty straightforward. With the DynamicShare, we have two types of boxes. We have a box that is the master unit, and then we have the slave units. The interface of setting this up and also looking to how your connectivity has been done when you're using DynamicShare. When you log on to the device using your laptop and an Ethernet cable that have to be connected to the internet at the same time, then you can go in and see the status of your setup. You can see your network, if everything is fine, and you can set up a new IP address, of course. You can also see how the system is connected. If you have everything in the loop, it can also give you an indication if you have a bad cable. So it won't show all the monitors. It will show the monitors until the cable and the connectivity is correct. When you come to the failing monitor, it will then indicate that it cannot see the rest of the monitors. Again, a very helpful tool for fault finding. We can also, with using PC Anywhere, for example, help you out for fault finding. We can do remote diagnostic using this system. If you leave the HOLM share boards connected to the internet, you'll also get automatically the firmware upgrades that will be available. Of course, also the hardware details will be there, so you have the serial number of your DynamicShare. At the same time, you can also, if you have several units on stock of this, you can determine by using this software if you are using, if you need it to be a master or need it to be a slave unit. It's very, very important that you only have one master unit in your setup, otherwise the system will not be able to function correctly. So a bit back to the setup. I have already said it a bit earlier that it's maximum 20 units that we can do. We try to keep the cables as short as possible for having the most stable system, and also to guarantee that if there's a bad cable, it can still there's still a possibility to run fine with shorter cables than with longer cables. We have the external box, so we can add a projector to our system, for example, and where we can also take out the audio of the presentation. Also, this box will be used if you want to transmit or send the signal to a different room or a different location, or if you want to do recording of the meeting, you can use it for that. But the idea is that everything can stand alone, and the only thing you have to do is add power. Going back to security, this is a very interesting part that you just need to add power. You don't need any network connectivity and that when you have the units, the share system and the monitor set up. So as we talked about, the box is very simple to use. It's the same. It has direct access to the 3 inputs, and it's where you give it to the master unit. If you use it as a master, you connect that one and not the rest to the internet if needed for support and this on. And firmware upgrades. We talked about security, so you don't have to, but if you need assistance, you will have to connect it. So a bit about the different types of installations that we have already integrated the share in. These are not the latest pictures, but here it gives you an idea about how it looks. In this case, we also have a motorized microphone. These pictures are taken doing integration, and under the tape you'll have, in this case, a fixed HDMI cable. You can see this is the one with priority. You have 3 buttons, and then you have the light above. This is another one where we also have a speaker integrated. We have a couple of USB connectors integrated on the left hand side, and then we have the 3 buttons for viewing, sharing and priority, and we have the LED indicators that shows what input you're using. And for some of you, you'll notice that this is not an HOLM monitor. This is an Alberal monitor. And we have 2 brands. We have Alberal and we have HOLM. HOLM is defined by the material that we use. We use aluminium for the casing. We use stainless steel and glass. Where in Alberal we use powder coated steel for the casing. And no, we don't have any glass in front of it. So the reason for this is to give you a product with a lower price point. So in those locations where they don't spend that much money on the tables and where it's not needed, you can use the Alberal and you still get the same functionality, the same quality and the same reliability. So this is a bit quick, but this is the DynamicShare integrated into the Dynamic 3, which is a horizontal monitor. Close and opens a bit like a laptop, and here where the HDMI cable is coming out, it looks a bit different. You can see it doesn't come out vertically, but it's coming out more horizontally. There's a small door that opens up and give you the cable, and of course closes and go down when you don't need it anymore. So on the different products, on the different monitors, the connectivity is a bit different. As I said, there was motorized cable or a fixed connector in the top. So we talked about DynamicShare. DynamicShare is where you have the possibility of showing your own source from each monitor position. Then we have another product. It's more or less the same as the DynamicShare. It's called DynamicLoop. The DynamicLoop is daisy chaining different monitors and using one source for the video distribution. So it's only one place you can have a source. You cannot have it at each monitor with the loop, but it gives you some other advantages like the quantities of monitors you can do, and it makes it very simple to connect and set up. And also, if you have a large installation where you want to have matrix where it's difficult due to the layout of the table to keep the cable short and to make it easy, then this is pretty simple. It's just looping them. And an important thing, the first monitor and the last doesn't have to be connected on the HDMI. It's only on share. So let's have a look at this. So as you see, the first monitor can have the source and it's being transferred to the rest. If we are looking into the donut principle, it's the source that we see at the left hand side at the bottom. That is a donut that could be from the main server, and then it goes to the rest of the monitors. If you have them all in one line, you cannot do more than 20. It's the same, reproducing the signal as in share. But since we don't have to close it, we can actually have open ends of the daisy chain. And therefore, if we add HDMI matrix or HDMI splitter, 1 in 10 out, we can actually make 19 lines. So if you have one source goes into an HDMI splitter and you have 10 outputs, you can have on each output 19. So that's 190. And then of course, if you have a splitter that's a 15 out or 20 out, if it's 20 out, you can have the double. So it gives you quite a lot of advantages in video distribution, especially in large size installation and also in auditoriums, for example. The DynamicLoop also comes as a standalone box. It looks exactly the same with the same kind of connectivity, but with different features. DynamicShare standalone box can be used in different ways. We talked about already that we can take the signal out. We can use it as a setup with, let's say, third-party monitors, but it can also be used differently. So in the drawing that we have here, this is like an auditorium, and we could say that we have 3 presenters. So let's take a look at the box one more time. So can you imagine we have 3 presenters, and each presenter has maybe a motorized cable. It could also be a cable that is already lying there. Then you have input source 1, you have input source 2 and 3. You have it out for the main display, you have the audio out as well. So when you have this, it's pretty straightforward for you. Forget about the loop in and out in this case. We're just taking the information out of the box. So with a box interface like this, you can actually have them in a different configuration, and you can switch between the 3 HDMI inputs that you are showing here. So a very simple, straight way forward to have one box like this, or 2 boxes of this, or 3, and you can have up to 6 presenter easily. You just have to ask us for a box that fits your need for this type of installation. But very simple. This is also something that is extremely useful in courthouses, for example, where you want to have a closed video distribution, where you want to have a way quickly of showing what you need to show and take it away when you don't want to show it anymore. So again, the same connectivity as before, the sub-D for connecting the box itself together with the interface box. And also here we are back to the loop. With the standalone, you can say you can have on the monitor, we can give you drive contacts, so you can select sources from your main server, for example. So back to the loop, the difference is that the first monitor and the last doesn't have to be connected, and we can only share from one location. This is a bit what I explained about before, that we have one source, and then we have a HDMI splitter, and then as many output as we can have up to 19 monitors on each. It's also a good way of distributing the signal onto different lines if something should go wrong in one of the threads. So this is an example of a parliament building where they have 380 monitors. Here, the DynamicShare have helped out a lot to do the distribution because of limiting the cable links. So that is more or less perfect for using the DynamicLoop, where you daisy change the monitors and you don't have to go from the first monitor to the last. So that is a great solution for that. So the recap, DynamicShare allows you to select between different HDMI inputs on each device and share the signal to and from any point in the loop up to 20 units. And remember, no latency, no frames, no drop in video quality, no software needed, no software upgrade needed for the presentation. All you have to be capable of doing is connecting an HDMI connector to your laptop and press view and then press the share button. DynamicShare standalone allows you to take out the signal, to take out the audio for the main presentation and do amplification of audio, or sending the signal somewhere else to a projector, to a local screen or external screen. Where DynamicLoop is one source distribution of daisy chain and HDMI cables. The first and the last doesn't have to be connected. If we go straight without an HDMI splitter, then we can do 20 units. If we have an HDMI splitter, it counts as 1, and then on each output we can do 19 monitors per string. So when we talk about this about designing everything for the same purpose, doing the design ourselves for both controls, for video, for mechanical controls, and for video distribution as well. Not only the video boards inside of our monitors, but also the the video control on distribution. We combine that with the AH Link, which is your app on your mobile phone. The ERT is your IP interface to RS422. You get the perfect handshake between all your different HOLM products. So the ERT 30 and the ERT 60 indicates that the ERT 30 you can work with that up to 30 devices, and ERT 60 up to 60 devices. And you can have several of boxes depending on how many units you have. So if you buy, for example, an HOLM display with a dynamic torque built in, that counts as 2 devices because you have 2 motors. Motors action. You have it to raise and lower the display and to raise and lower the mic. So if you want them on different times, let's say you only want to use the mic, then you run that up and down. In the future, we will have the possibility of running those 2 products combined with just one ERT connectivity, but that's still to come. So, as I said, IP to RS422 is what the ERT box does. We know that you can already do that with other of your products. What happens is that when you do use the HOLM is that it gives you a possibility to isolate all the HOLM products from the rest of your installation, your lighting, your curtains, whatever else you have on your control system. And it allows us to give you support remotely. Just give us the IP address connected to the internet, and we can just connect and we can see what's going on and we can help you out. So it's a big help. And if we look at the price point of it, it's so low that only a couple of hours on fault finding or this will pay for this unit right away. These units have different setups. It has its own power supply. It stands alone. It's never integrated into our product. There are 2 different dip switches on it that indicates what kind of state it's in, and you can connect to it via the HOLM app. The HOLM app is available on Android, and it's also available on Apple. So the wireless connectivity on all our products is something you activate and disactivate. So you activate it when you need it and disactivate it when you don't need it anymore. Actually, if you stop connecting, it will automatically switch off. So the reason why it's not active all the time is because if you go into a room and you start searching for it, you'll have all the HOLM products popping up and you don't know which one is what. So it's much easier, just go and activate it on one device and then you connect. On the device itself, you have your Ethernet connectivity, you have your AHNet connectivity, in this case it's the ERT60. You have your setup, you have your voltage, and you have your LED indicators at the bottom that will indicate if you have different settings, and also if you have your wireless connectivity activated. So the ERT makes life easier for us and for you, and also for the system integrator. So there are 2 parts. When we talk about the DynamicShare, we talk about making life easy both for the system integrator, but also for the user. The ERT is more focused on you for the setup. It makes it extremely easy, and for us, easily to be able to give you support. The ERT doesn't only give us the possibility of the remote access for diagnostic, but also for you to set up like addressing on the products and so forward. Using the app have taken the work underneath the table away. So when physically the products are connected, you can get up, you can sit on a chair, and then you can connect to the devices. And we're just showing that a bit here, how it works. So when we are looping our devices for control using the AH Link, we are doing that on Cat6 cables. Earlier we talked about Cat5 cables for this, but due to all the wireless getting into the more boardrooms and so on from different devices, also what we're bringing ourselves, we recommend a shielded cable or Cat6 cables. And when we are looping the devices for control, we can actually loop between screens, retractable cables, retractable microphones, and retractable speakers. And then we can still individually control them. But you don't have to say, I need an ERT for microphones, I need one for displays. It's always a good thing to keep things clean and easy in the installation. So if you keep all the screens on one, well, then that makes make it more the programming more it simplifies the programming is what I want to say, and then you keep another one for, let's say, a dynamic talk. So here you'll have to activate the wireless connectivity on the ERT. You connect with your phone, and then you can get access to the monitors. It could also be that during the later on you want to connect to a display. You activate the wireless connectivity on the display, and then you can get the information on from the display, like serial number and other types of information. So if you have downloaded the app and you have it on your phone, you activate the AIDS link, you see this image. You press on the screen where it says scan for devices, and then the device that you have activated will pop up. When you press on that, you'll go in and you'll see the menu. You'll find what product it is, and then you'll select what you want to do. At the bottom here, there's also a password protected area, and that's where we can go in and change the factory settings of it. But you can imagine you're using this and you don't have to be under the table to set the address, or if you need to find a serial number, you don't have to open up the table, you get it from the app, so it's a big advantage. One of the things that it also allows you to do is getting one-touch addressing. So the first monitor you touch will be monitor number 1, the second 2, the third, and so forward. So a lot of advantages on the ERT. As I said earlier, the protocol is pretty simple. It's RS422, so we send a command and we get a response as well, and that's how we like to work with this. I'm just going to jump through it, but just to give you an idea, that's available for the talk for all the different products. So the ERT in general, the benefits from it is plug and play. It's very secure and it's very simple for us to give you remote support at any time. The app, the link, it makes it so much nicer than to be sit above the table than to be under the table, and you don't physically have to touch the product itself. It's a much nicer working environment by using this combination. I said earlier that the app is not to control the installation during use of the installation. It's for the system integrator to make the system integrator's life easier and it works more comfortable. But it also works with our speakers. So should you have your speakers installed in your office, you can actually use it to activate them and deactivate them, and also get your volume. But it is main purpose of the AX-Link interface on the speaker is for you to do the setup, to set the sound level, and also here we have a master and a slave on the speaker, and addressing and so on. A short reason why we have made a motorized speaker. We made a motorized speaker, again, to have the audio, the video, both audio amplification and audio reproducing as close to the user as possible, so the room acoustic becomes less important. That is why we have put it on the speaker, on the table, the speaker. And actually, a lot of people have said, so how this doesn't work, because I have the speaker and I have the microphone very close, I'll get the Larsen effect, I'll get feedback. But because of the flat frequency response, because of the microphone pointing away, we can get a big ratio between feedback and voice lift. So it works extremely well. As well as for the rest of our product, the speaker can be mounted above the table, or flush with the table, or from below the table. So, and you can actually also here use a veneer finishing on top of it, so it completely disappears, so you don't see the AV equipment from HOLM when not in use. So that was a quick introduction of the DynamicLoop, the DynamicShare. I think today it's a solution to a lot of problems, especially when we look at supply chain. We're extremely happy that we have this product on stock and we can ship from mid-October. It's a product for some of you. You have already, let's say, pre-ordered it, because the monitors that you have received was ready to share, where we already installed the interface, and now you'll get the box and connect it to you. Good. Let's see if we have some questions from the participants of this webinar.
Thank you, Henrik. We have quite a few questions. The first one, can the system share be controlled remotely?
Yes, it can be controlled remotely. You have the local control or you have the remote control. And at the same time, if you're doing it remotely and you're afraid that people will interfere, you can block the buttons or locking the buttons via our remote control setup to the product so they cannot interfere with your control of the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. And another one, do we need an ERT to control the share system?
You don't directly need an ERT, but it's recommendable that you're using the ERT because it makes the setup much easier. It gives us the possibility of giving you support. So the best thing is to use the ERT for the setup.
Okay, the third one, I think you already replied, but in any case, the question is it possible to block the buttons from the cover plates?
Yeah, you can block the buttons, as I said, so you don't have interference for the users and all the participants in the meeting.
Okay, and another one, is it possible to have more than 20 devices?
No, it's not recommendable. We know there are people that are using 26, 22 and so on, but we cannot recommend it because what we recommend and what it's designed for is for 20 and that we can guarantee works.
Okay, and what if we have a meeting room that can be divided into two and then it can be converted into only one meeting room? How can we do that?
So if you have two different meeting rooms and you're not exceeding the amount of 20, we have talked a bit about keeping the cable short in this, and if you need to have a longer cable because it's two rooms that's going to be joined, then we recommend you to use from us our HDBaseT extender, so we convert the signal and we use a Cat6 cable in between them. This way it's a secure way to have more distance between a group of the monitors and another group of the monitors.
Okay, and the next one, can I add one HDMI matrix in the loop?
It's not recommendable to do that because we don't know how that treats the signal. So the answer would be no, do not do that.
What type of video compression is used in the share system?
We don't use any compression. Therefore, we maintain the video quality and we also don't have any frame delays.
So these are all the questions. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And thank you all for your time. We will send you this recording so you can use it for later on or you can share it with your colleagues. You'll see that you'll also get our contact details and you'll also find my email address here at the bottom if you have any question or you're in need of further information. So have a great day and thank you for spending this morning with us. Thank you.